Long after the Battle of Hogwarts faded into history, there were still places on the map that refused to stay still. Places where footprints vanished overnight, where reflections moved before the body did, where creatures spoken of in whispers were neither hoax nor proof. Luna Lovegood went looking for those places and crossed Rolf Scamander on her journey. Between them stretched a world of winged shadows, ancient beasts, and truths that did not wish to be named. Tonight, we follow Luna beyond Hogwarts, into the wild spaces where wonder survived the war. Greetings, traveller. You've found your way back to the Silver Quill Corner. I am Grayfen, the story keeper. Long ago, when I was bound to an ancient wizarding family, I learned that stories carry a magic older than time itself. Here, we explore wizarding history, hidden truths, and the deeper lore of the Harry Potter world. If the murmur of quills and the echo of old corridors bring you peace, press like, subscribe. Tell me, Keeper, from what city, realm, or corner of the world are you listening? I'd love to know how far these stories have reached. There is a tower leaning toward the sea, and inside it, a young witch is preparing to leave the only home she has ever known. Her name, as you may have guessed, is Luna Lovegood. The war is over. The scars upon the world have begun to fade, though some remain carved beneath the skin of memory. In the valleys of Devon, the grass grows long again over fields once heavy with silence. The Lovegood house still tilts, its crooked spire reaching for the clouds. Inside, morning has the soft smell of honey and parchment. A kettle hums without flame. Somewhere, a quill stirs itself awake, dipping into ink of faint silver sheen. On the top floor, Luna stands by an open window, her hair catching the salt breeze. The light wraps around her like a memory half remembered. Her father moves gently through the room behind her, his steps careful, as though not to disturb the fragile peace they've built from the wreckage of the world. Xenophilius Lovegood still prints his quibbler, though the pages now speak of rebirth, of vanished forests returning, of creatures thought extinct daring to show themselves again. He watches his daughter pack a small trunk, sketches and pages filled with shapes no one else has yet seen. Creatures of mist and wing, of feather and fable. "Going far, my Luna?" he asks, voice trembling just enough to reveal the truth. He already knows she will. She turns, that familiar serenity in her gaze. "Not far," she says softly. "Just everywhere." Outside, the gulls cry above the sea. A letter lies upon the desk, its seal the deep emerald of the Department of Magizoology. They have written to invite her to join an expedition to study rare and vanishing species. Few witches are chosen, fewer still accept. But Luna's heart has always been called by things that others do not see. She closes her trunk with a quiet click. Around her the air hums, the kind of gentle enchantment that happens when hope and courage share the same breath. Her father pours tea into 2 cups, the steam rising like ghostly wings. "She would have been proud," he says. He means Pandora, the woman who once turned light into song, and whose laughter still lives in the beams of this house. Luna smiles faintly, as if her mother has just passed by the window, unseen but present. She lifts her cup, the steam blurring her reflection. I think she still is. The room falls silent. They have learned that love, once spoken into the air, never truly leaves it. Later, as twilight folds itself over the hill, Luna steps outside. The tower leans behind her, its windows flickering with candlelight, like the eyes of a creature watching her go, blessing her departure. She walks barefoot through the grass. Each blade glows faintly where she passes, a lingering spell from her mother's old experiments. By the gate, her father waits. In his hands, he holds a small parcel wrapped in parchment. "For your travels," he murmurs. Inside is a locket, a pressed flower sealed under glass. a moon lily from the garden that bloomed the night she was born. Luna places it around her neck, to remember that even in darkness, things grow. He nods, unable to speak, and then, for the first time since the war, she opens the gate and steps beyond the hill. The road is quiet, the air touched with spring rain. In the distance, an owl circles. Not her mother's owl, not the school's, but something older, wilder. It watches her for a moment, then flies ahead as though to guide her. As she follows, the sky deepens to violet. The first stars appear, trembling like secrets finally ready to be told. She hums softly, the same melody her mother once used when working spells of light. And though she carries no wand in her hand, the world seems to bend toward her presence. The flowers lift, the air listens. Somewhere, in a place between dusk and dawn, magic smiles. So begins her second life. Not a war of wands, but of wonder. The journey of Luna Lovegood, seeker of the unseen, who walks toward a world waiting to be believed in again. The sea answers with a single wave breaking against the rocks. The story waits. The path north wound through mists that smelled of pine and salt. Trains faded into carriages, carriages into boats, and boats into silence. Days folded like parchment, and at last, Luna stepped onto the frost-soft earth of Scandinavia, a land of long twilight and longer memory. The forest here did not whisper. It listened. Trees leaned together as though sharing secrets beneath their bark. Snow hung from their branches like threads of spun glass, unmelting even beneath the pale sun. Somewhere between the roots, the ground breathed with slow, enchanted life. Luna carried a leather-bound journal, its corners worn from years of sketches. Each page trembled faintly when she wrote. Her quill was charmed to glow by moonlight. Her thoughts flowed in silver lines. The northern wood remembers light differently. The shadows do not hide, they rest. She traveled with a small research party, 3 wizards from the department, each armed with telescopic lenses and skepticism polished to a mirror shine. They measured hoof prints, compared samples, recorded temperatures. Luna, meanwhile, listened to the air. At night she wandered apart from the camp, her breath drifting like fog. The aurora unfurled above her, green, rose, and ghost blue ribbons whispering across the sky. Beneath that living light, the snow glittered with tiny motes that moved of their own accord. She knelt, bare fingers brushing the frost. The motes scattered, then reformed, circling her wrist in curious orbit. Some would have called them ice spores. Luna thought of something else. Nargles, she whispered to herself. The word hung in the frozen air, unchallenged. From the ridge above, one of the researchers called, "Nothing here but wind, Lovegood. Not everything unseen is real." She smiled, serene. "Of course not," she answered softly. "But the real things are often unseen." Her companion laughed, shaking his head, and returned to the tents. Luna stayed, letting the cold bite gently at her skin until her heartbeat matched the rhythm of the forest. Then she saw them, mooncalves, pale and luminescent, gliding from a clearing as though sculpted from mist. Their enormous eyes reflected the aurora. Their hooves left no mark. They moved in patterns, a slow waltz older than language. Luna pressed her palm to the earth. The creatures lifted their heads, watching her with the kind of patience that belongs only to those who have never been hunted. For a moment, she thought she heard them hum, a low, resonant sound like light caught in a shell. When dawn arrived, the others found the tracks, perfect circles melted into the snow. They gasped, measuring and muttering. Luna simply smiled and sketched the dance from memory. That evening she sat by the fire, quill tapping idly against her knee. "They bow to the moon before they eat," she wrote. "Perhaps gratitude is a universal language." The others teased her gently, but one, a quiet witch from Bulgaria, watched the page longer than the rest. "You make them sound holy," she said. "Everything alive is holy," Luna replied, "if you look long enough." Silence followed, deeper than the forest. Somewhere, an owl called, a soft, low note that sounded almost like approval. Weeks passed. They mapped, they catalogued, and when the department men packed their trunks, Luna lingered. She wanted one last look at the valley beneath the aurora. Snow fell in feathers. The forest glowed faintly blue. She closed her eyes, feeling the hush settle through her bones. For the first time since the war, her heart was still. She realized then that she was not searching for proof. She was searching for peace. In her journal, she wrote a single line before leaving the North. Some truths do not ask to be proven. They only ask to be seen. And so Luna Lovegood learned what few ever do, that wonder does not vanish when understood. It deepens. The aurora faded, and the world turned quietly toward spring. Somewhere beyond the next horizon, another mystery waited to be believed in. The trail of wonder led her south, through harbors that smelled of cinnamon and salt, through dunes that glittered like powdered sunlight. At the edge of North Africa, the world widened into silence, a vast expanse of ochre and wind where the horizon shimmered like a mirage caught between waking and dream. Here the air trembled in waves that bent the light, hiding shapes that moved too gracefully to be tricks of the eye. Luna traveled with nomadic witches who told stories of death's messengers. She knew those beings well, thestrals. The witches spoke of dark winged beasts that guided souls through the desert night. Luna thought of the thestrals she had known, perhaps not the same herd, but kin to them. Once they had carried her through the skies above England, their wings slicing through storm cloud and fear. Now she followed their legend across continents, tracing migration paths that had no maps. Her companions were few, a sand witch from Alexandria who could coax water from stone, and a scholar from Mahutakoro whose robes shimmered with cooling charms. Both were practical, skeptical, careful. Luna was none of those things. She moved barefoot through the sand, trusting her feet to find the old paths. They camped among ruins, arches half buried by time, columns etched with runes that glowed faintly under moonlight. The desert night was cold and endless, the sky scattered with stars bright enough to hurt the eyes. In that stillness, even breath sounded like a spell. It was on the third night that Luna woke to a sound she knew by heart, a soft exhale, heavy and hollow, like wind caught in bone. She rose quietly, her wand unlit, letting the silver light of the moon guide her. The others slept, their dreams too shallow to hold what was about to pass. Beyond the dunes, the herd waited. Their wings were half folded, ribbed with moonlight, their skin black as obsidian dust. Dozens of them, perhaps more, standing motionless. When Luna stepped forward, they did not flee. She moved among them slowly, reverently, as one walks through a memory. Their eyes, milky and depthless, reflected the same sadness she had once carried from childhood. For a long while, no sound existed but the pulse of her heart. One of the creatures bent its long neck toward her. The movement stirred a wind that smelled of rain on stone, impossible in this place. Luna lifted her hand and touched its muzzle, warm, alive, trembling faintly. "Hello again," she whispered. For a heartbeat, her mother's laughter seemed to echo through the dunes, not a haunting, but a homecoming. Luna closed her eyes. The thestral lowered its head, and in that gesture she saw what no textbook had ever taught, that death itself was not cruel. It was quiet. It waited patiently, like a ghostly friend who understands silence better than speech. She stayed with them until dawn, tracing the patterns of their wings, sketching each curve and vein into her journal. When the first light touched the horizon, the herd began to move. Their hooves left no prints, their wings folded into invisibility. Within moments, only the wind remained. Her companions found her seated in the sand, ink-stained fingers trembling around her quill. "Did you see them?" one asked, half afraid of the answer. Luna smiled gently. "Only because I never stopped." That night, she wrote beneath the glow of her lantern, "The Thestral teaches us that loss is only another kind of sight. Through it, the living remember how to see the invisible." When she finished the sentence, she didn't close her journal. Instead, she looked up at the stars, bright and innumerable, and thought of all the souls she had loved, her mother, Dumbledore, Dobby, scattered among them. The wind brushed her cheek like a benediction. The desert was no longer empty. It was full of voices she could finally bear to hear. The night faded to rose and gold. Her journey, however, had just begun to hum again. A pulse, a call, a rumor waiting to be believed somewhere beyond the next horizon. From the desert's hush to the song of rain, that was the distance between chapters in Luna Lovegood's life. The map that carried her next was drawn in rumor. A story passed from an Albanian trader to a German charm maker, from there to a letter on Rolf Scamander's desk. It spoke of a valley in the Carpathian wilds where reflections moved without mirrors, and where, some said, a creature with a spiral horn left ripples in the air itself. Luna arrived beneath a bruised sky. Mist drifted between black-barked trees, and water pooled in glassy hollows that echoed every step twice. It was a place built from memory, half real, half dream. Rolf was waiting beside the path, boots muddy, eyes bright with the kind of logic that had never yet met Luna Lovegood. "Careful footing," he said, offering a hand. "The ground pretends to be solid." She took it lightly. "So do people," she answered and smiled. They camped near a stream that ran perfectly still. Every sound seemed to have an echo that came a heartbeat too late. By day they searched for tracks, measuring horn marks, collecting shed feathers that glowed faintly when wet. By night they sat by their small enchanted fire, Rolf cataloguing, Luna sketching by starlight. He watched her draw once, unable to stop himself. "You don't sketch what's there," he said. "You sketch what it feels like." "Perhaps that's closer to truth," she replied. Rain fell for 3 days. The valley shimmered like a dream underwater. Then, in the fourth night's hush, a low hum rippled through the fog, a vibration in bone more than ear. The surface of the pool quivered. From its heart rose a figure, graceful, half-seen, pale as moon milk, crowned with a horn that caught the lightning and scattered it into rainbows. Luna's breath left her as a prayer. The creature turned its head toward her, and for an instant she thought it smiled. Then the ground trembled, a thunderclap, a flash, and it was gone. The pool lay still again, showing only her own reflection, wide-eyed and small. At dawn, they found what remained, a single twisted shard buried in mud, dull grey, heavy. Rolf knelt beside it, whispering an identification spell. The air hissed with recoil. "Irrumpant horn," he said, voice tight. "Highly explosive." The locals mistook it for something else. Luna wiped the mud away, the fragment gleaming faintly under her fingers. "Or," she said softly, "perhaps it mistook us for something else." Rolf looked at her, confusion giving way to wonder. He had spent his life chasing facts. She was teaching him the art of believing anyway. They buried the horn near the water's edge, carving a small rune above it, a symbol for possibility. When they finished, the storm broke. Sunlight spilled through the clouds, turning every droplet into fire. For a heartbeat, Luna saw the shape again in the reflected sky, horned, luminous, beautiful, and knew better than to reach for it. That evening she wrote, "Some myths are true only when you stop trying to prove them. They live in the space between evidence and awe." Rolf read over her shoulder, his smile slow, uncertain, genuine. You really think that thing existed? She closed her journal. I think it still does. Just not where we were looking. They packed their camp beneath the cooling light. Fireflies drifted through the damp air, their glow caught in the folds of her robes. She turned once, gazing back toward the pool. Its surface shimmered, reflecting two silhouettes side by side, a dreamer and a realist, each softened by the other. In that valley of mirrors, Luna Lovegood learned the gentlest kind of wisdom, that faith and knowledge are not enemies, only reflections searching for the same light. And somewhere beyond the hills, new stars woke, waiting for her to name them. Only reflections searching for the same light. And somewhere beyond the hills, new stars woke, waiting for her to name them. Quietly when one spends them among stars and feathers. By the time Luna Lovegood found her way back to Devon, the crooked tower had aged with grace. The ivy reached higher. The sea had worn the cliffs smooth, and the wind still carried the faint perfume of ink and honey. Inside, the house breathed as it always had, teacups stirring, portraits humming. But where there had once been loneliness, laughter now lived. Small footsteps raced up the spiral stair. Two voices, bright as bells, argued cheerfully about whether pufferpods could dream. Lorcan and Lysander, twin reflections of curiosity itself. Their father, Rolf Scamander, knelt beside a trunk of field gear, dusted with sand and glittering beetle wings. He looked up as Luna entered, her hair streaked with salt light, her eyes calm with the kind of joy that grows only after grief. "Another article finished?" he asked. She nodded, setting down a stack of parchment. "The Quibbler's becoming rather respectable. Father says he hardly recognizes it anymore." Rolf grinned. "And you still let him think he edits it?" "Of course. Some myths deserve to be believed." They laughed, a sound that turned the air golden. In the window's reflection, the sea shone like liquid glass. Later, when the twins slept, Luna climbed to the top of the tower. The night smelled of rain and wildflowers. From this height, the world seemed stitched together by silver light, village lanterns, ship lanterns, constellations above. She opened her journal, its pages crowded with sketches from years of travel, moon calves under auroras, thestrals in desert wind, the pale outline of something horned rising from a mirrored pool. Each drawing had a note beside it, written in her looping hand. "Be kind to what you do not understand." She turned to a clean page and began to write again. "The earth is older than our certainty. The creatures we name into existence carry more wisdom than we do. If we listen long enough, they will teach us how to stay." The quill paused. Beneath the ink's scent, another drifted through. Lavender and lightning, Pandora's perfume. Luna smiled. Some blessings never needed to be seen to be real. Downstairs, one of the boys stirred from a dream and called her name. She answered with a soft humming, the same melody her mother had once sung to light. The tower hummed with her, every beam remembering. Seasons rolled over the hills. The twins grew tall and freckled, chasing bowtruckles through the hedges, whispering to fairies that hid in foxglove bells. Sometimes Luna joined them, crouching among the flowers, explaining how magic preferred gentle hands. Rolf watched from the porch, notebook open, heart full. He had studied creatures all his life, but in Luna he'd found a rarer species, someone who believed first and measured later. She had taught him that wonder itself was a form of science. When the boys asked about the war, she told them only that darkness once forgot how to listen, and that light had to teach it again. They accepted this without fear. In time, Luna's research filled the archives of the Wizarding Academy of Natural Magic. New species bore her initials, yet the world knew her less for discovery than for delight. At conferences, while others debated classification, she would pause mid-sentence to watch a moth beat its wings against the lamplight. "See," she'd whisper to the nearest student, "proof that curiosity still exists." And when the room laughed, she laughed too, because joy, like flight, requires air shared by more than one heart. On the eve of her 50th birthday, Luna returned once more to the cliff where her story began. The grass bent under the wind, glittering with moonlit dew. Above her, a shape crossed the sky, skeletal wings, graceful, patient. A thestral, gliding along a current of silver air. She raised a hand in greeting. "Thank you," she said softly. The creature tilted its head and vanished into cloud. Behind her, the tower windows blinked with candlelight. Inside, her son's laughter mixed with the sea's long sigh. She knew then that her mother's lesson had come full circle, that love, when tended with wonder, never ends. And so the witch who once saw what others could not became the woman who helped the world remember how. Her courage was kindness, her legacy curiosity, her magic a faith in light so gentle that even darkness chose to listen. If her tale kept your candle burning a little longer tonight, leave a trace of your light behind. Leave a like. It truly helps so the channel can grow and be seen. Until we meet beneath another star, rest well and remember, magic never leaves us. It only waits to be seen.